Hey, before our worship team comes back, and they're going to come back, and we're going to have a dedicated time to pray for the world and world events. I wanted to share with you a prepared statement. It's a little bit lengthy, but this is one of those occasions where I feel like that as a pastor, I try not to speak into everything going on in the culture, to be blunt with you. I think there's some guys that speak way too much. And so when I do, I want it to kind of matter a little bit. And I have a prepared statement I want to read to you in light of recent events, what's going on in the world today, because I do think it's important that we think biblically. So let me just read this. I need to take a moment before we get to today's message, because you now know the United States and Israel launched a major combat initiative against Iran yesterday. President Trump called it major combat operations. The operation is called Operation Epic Fury, and it's going on even as we sit here right now. Missiles are flying, people are perishing, the Middle East is on fire. Your pastor's not going to stand up here and pretend that it doesn't matter or that the Bible has nothing to say about it, because it does. Some of you came here today glad about this. You've been watching Iran fund terrorism, chase nuclear weapons, massacre their own people, and some of you are thinking it's about time. Some of you came in here scared. You've got kids. You know that what war means. You remember Iraq. You remember how these things go. And you're sitting there and you're wondering if this is the beginning of something much bigger, something perhaps much worse. Both of these responses are human. Both of them are understandable. And neither of them is your final authority. The Bible is. So to this end, there's a few questions I'd want to answer. First off, is this cause just? Iran has been pursuing nuclear weapons in defiance of repeated warnings. They have funded Hamas. They have funded Hezbollah. They have been firing at our allies and military bases for years through proxies. And when their own people rose up in the last few weeks, 32,000 of them were killed in the streets, and the regime didn't blink. That is a regime that is a danger to Israel, to its region, and eventually to us. This cause is just. Legitimate authority. The President of the United States and the governor of Israel authorized these strikes. Like it or not, that is legitimate governing authority. Though there will be conversations about this over the next few weeks, especially if this conflict goes over 60 days. The very authority found in Romans 13 says government bears the sword on God's behalf. Was it the right intent? Trump said it plainly: destroy the nuclear program, protect our allies, and give the Iranian people a chance at freedom. He said the hour of your freedom is at hand. The stated goal is not conquest, it's the removal of nuclear threat and the liberation of people being crushed by a theocratic regime. Is this the right enemy? Khomeini, the supreme leader, for 36 years, was killed in an Israeli strike on his Tehran compound. Along with him, the IRGC commander, the defense minister, and the chief of staff of the Iranian armed forces, the regime's top leadership gone in a matter of hours. Maybe you're wrestling with this idea. Is it right to target, kill the head of a state? Is it just an assassination? Can a Christian justify such actions? Let me introduce you to someone who wrestled with this exact question and paid for it with his life. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a German pastor and theologian, brilliant, godly, and after years of prayer and agonizing moral reflection, he joined a plot to assassinate Adolf Hitler. Bonhoeffer believed in the sanctity of human life. He believed in Romans 13. But he came to believe something else, that there are moments when the church cannot simply bind up wounds of victims crushed beneath the wheel. Sometimes it must put a spoke in the wheel itself. His argument was thoroughly Christian. When a ruler has so completely abandoned his God-ordained purpose, when he has become not a servant for good, but an engine of mass murder, he has forfeited his moral legitimacy. Romans 13 grants him. He's no longer God's servant, and he has become a very evil government that needs to be restrained. Bonhoeffer said this: if I see a madman driving a car into a crowd, I can't simply comfort the wounded and bury the dead. I must try to wrestle the steering wheel out of his hands. Apply that to Khomeini. He was a man who ordered his own people shot in the streets, 32,000 of them, who funded Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis for decades, who chased nuclear weapons with the stated goal of wiping Israel off the map. This was not legitimate Romans 13 authority. This was a madman at the wheel. And today, someone put a spoke in it. Bonhoeffer was executed by the Nazis just 23 days before Germany surrendered. He died for that conviction. But history, and I would argue the church, has vindicated him. The man who tried to stop Hitler was not a murderer. He was a man of conscience doing terribly costly, necessary thing in the moment it was demanded. Not to act is to act. That's Bonhoeffer. Doing nothing in the face of monstrous evil is itself a moral choice, and it's the wrong one. Today, someone chose to act, and as we speak, 85 million Iranians who have lived under that regime for 47 years may be breathing just a little bit differently. You know, was this a last resort? That's an honest question. Negotiations were ongoing. Some will argue the diplomatic road was not fully exhausted. That's a fair debate. I'm not going to pretend it's not. What I will say is Iran had years. They had warnings. They had Operation Midnight Hammer last June that obliterated their nuclear facilities, and they rebuilt. And at some point, a rogue regime that keeps rebuilding a weapon designed to wipe Israel off the map has answered the diplomatic question for you. You know, there's no question about it. As the reports are coming in, there are civilians that are perishing. A just war does not give anyone a blank check on civilian casualties. We pray for those people, and we grieve that. The righteousness of a cause does not make every action of that cause righteous. So is it a just war? Based on what we know right now, there's a reasonable biblical and moral case that it is. Now let me say something closer to home. Here's the thing about Iran that most people in the news won't say, but I will. The Iranian regime is not just a political threat, it is a theocratic Islamic revolutionary regime built on an ideology that Islam must dominate, that Israel must be destroyed, and that the West, that's us, must submit. This is not my characterization. This is their stated mission. The deceased Ayatollah Khomeini said it. Khomeini, he continued in that. It is written in the founding documents as the Islamic Republic, also known as the Islamic Brotherhood. And here's what I want you to understand. That ideology does not stay in Tehran. We are watching the Islamization of communities right here in Texas. Mosques are being built. Islamic schools are being established. Sharia courts are quietly pushed in community dispute resolutions. City councils in certain communities are being reshaped, and a culture, our culture, a Judeo-Christian culture, being told it must accommodate, must not offend, must make room. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that every Muslim person in Texas is your enemy. That's not what I'm saying. But I am going to tell you that an ideology that has as its goal the submission of all people to Islamic law is not compatible with the Constitution of the United States, the gospel of Jesus Christ, or the free society that Christians built. It's not. I would further say you're allowed to say that. It's believers. You're allowed to believe that. Your pastor's not going to apologize for saying that out loud. What happened in Iran yesterday, in part, is a collision between two civilizational visions. One that says freedom, religious liberty, the rule of law, as imperfect as it is, are worth defending. And one that says submission to Islamic theocracy is the only acceptable outcome. The imam of the epic mosque, which is near us, 8 months ago, announced his allegiance for Iran from his Texas pulpit. Our state is under attack from within, and if you have not yet gone to vote, get to the polls. The question of Sharia law is on the ballot. We know which side of that line we stand on. So today, in just a moment, I'm going to invite you to come to this altar. Please pray. Pray for our troops. Pray for the Iranian people who have been living under this boot of oppression for 47 years. Pray that they might be free for the first time. Pray for wisdom in Washington. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray that God, who is sovereign and Lord over every nation, every king, and every bomb that drops, will work his purposes out in ways that cannot be seen. Ecclesiastes 3:8 says this: there is a time for war and a time for peace. We may be in that time right now. Let the church be the one place where people can think about it clearly, biblically, and without either blind flag waving or hand-wringing panic. That's why we're here during this song. May we pray together. Would you join me in standing?